Hello all, I'm Sakshi. On behalf of Enago and IntechOpen, I welcome you all to today's webinar on a guide to academic book writing and publishing. So today we have with us Professor Michael Preeler and Dr. Richard Murray, who will help you all navigate through the challenge of writing an academic book. Professor Preeler is a distinguished professor at the Media School at Hallam University in South Korea. He holds a PhD in International Cultural Studies from Tohoku University in Japan. Professor Preeler has more than 15 years of research experience in media, advertising, and health communication studies. Besides publishing more than 40 papers in his academic career, he has also published a book named Advertising in the Aging Society, Understanding Representations, Practitioners, and Consumers in Japan in 2016. Dr. Murray has a PhD in physical chemistry from the National University of Ireland. He has authored and co-authored multiple articles in his field of study and also acted as a peer review editor for some high impact factor Wiley journals. In his current role as Director of STEM program at IntechOpen, he is responsible for setting and delivering IntechOpen's publishing strategy for STEM, with emphasis on engineering for the Iberian Peninsula. We welcome you and thank you both for conducting this webinar with us. Before I hand over the mic to Professor Preeler, I would like to give you all a brief introduction about Enago. We are the world's leading author service provider, and our author first, quality first approach ensures that our authors receive only the best quality output and excellent user experience at all times. This unrelenting focus on authors' needs means that we never compromise on our quality systems and processes at any cost. All our services are designed keeping in mind the author's needs. Enago Academy is our author training platform that educates authors through a number of resources, including webinars, like today's webinar, as well as live workshop sessions. We also have an e-learning platform for researchers called Enago Learn and a one-to-one consultation platform called Enago Consult. The Enago promise guarantees that a manuscript edited by us will never be rejected on the basis of poor language. On a rare occasion, if a rejection occurs, we will take full responsibility of re-editing the paper for resubmission at no additional cost. Enago's comprehensive after-sales service will support you every step of the way until your manuscript is published. They're designed to take care of every need from the time you receive our main services till you are published. Enago's research communication service is designed to help you effectively present your research data. So that's about Enago. In case you're interested in any of our services, feel free to email us at academy@enago.com. Now, without any further delay, I will now hand over the mic to Professor Preeler.
Okay, welcome also to this webinar on academic book writing and publishing. And I will speak now about the agenda first. I will speak first a little bit about the overview of academic publishing. Then I will speak about the course of academic publishing, how to publish an edited volume, how to structure a book manuscript, and in the end I will briefly speak about how to market your book. So let's start with the introduction to academic publishing. So at the beginning, let's think about what types of academic books are actually existing. And the main types of books are monographs that are basically detailed writing on a specific topic presenting an author's original contribution to the field. Then the edited collections are a series of chapters with one or more editors and authors addressing specific aspects of a topic or subjects. Then there are so-called scholarly editions written by experts in the field to preserve or rescue a work of artistic, social, intellectual, or historical importance. For example, there are scholarly editions about different works by Shakespeare, for example. And then we have digital books. They are basically a digital representation of academic books with same matter of substance but with a different presentation. So there are also books, but they are presented in digital form. Then when we think about the academic book landscape, academic books function in a complex international ecology involving individual researchers, universities and research institutions, as we can see here, as well as funders and policymakers, publishers, libraries, and also other intermediaries. All these players have varying practices and expectations. In addition, the supply chain for academic books also involves distributors, wholesalers, booksellers, ebook aggregators, and many others. Better communication between all the communities involved in the writing, publishing, and reading of academic books is one of the essential steps to sustain this ecology. So why should we actually publish a book? That's one of the starting questions of this webinar today. And published books are generally still considered important while assessing a research scholar. However, writing in academic books is rewarding for an author, not only professionally, but certainly also personally. So if we look at this image on this slide, we have to think about what's the most effective way of presenting and communicating research on a specific topic. Maybe book might be one way. Career progression is certainly another reason why to write a book. Stay up to date with the latest developments in the research field. Improve scholarly reputation, particularly in some academic fields. Books are still very important. Establish expertise in the field and expand your knowledge. So these are just some areas why people might consider to publish a book. So then let's speak short about the course of academic book publishing. So we have first the stage 1, which is planning to write a book. But before that, in this what is here written stage 0, this book might be based on a dissertation, so that's why it's stage 0, but many books are not necessarily based on a dissertation. So then after the dissertation, maybe you revise it and plan your book, or you write a book that is not necessarily related with your dissertation. Then comes stage 2, actively drafting a book. Stage 3, preparing and submitting the book proposal. Stage 4, receiving the book contract. Stage 5, preparing and delivering the full manuscript. And stage 7, finally promoting the book. And we will go through basically all these stages. I missed the stage 6, copy editing, final formatting, and preparing for publication. This is certainly also necessary in order to have a well done book. So I will go through all these different points basically throughout this webinar. So let's look here first at writing the dissertation. So writing skills inculcated while writing a dissertation can lay a productive foundation for writing a book. So again, a dissertation can be a first step basically for a book. And then in the next step, we have then track your daily and weekly writing goals while writing your dissertation. So again, it's very important to basically stay on track with the dissertation. This is one of the main problems many students are facing. Then conduct a weekly writing review of your dissertation. Assess your dissertation's content, scope, and structure for its probability of becoming a successful book. Then the next point is brainstorming. The hardest part for many aspiring authors is to brainstorm for an idea that can be crafted into a compelling book proposal. So there are basically 5 points to remember before embarking on a book writing journey. First, explore the literature and identify gaps and trends. Adapt your ideas according to the current trends. Consider the time and efforts required to write the book, seek out also co-authors if needed, identify and analyze a target audience and the impact of your contribution. Be prepared to facilitate and build awareness of your work. So then the next step is drafting a book. Drafting or writing a book is the longest stage of publishing a book, especially if you are a first-time author. The key to successfully go through this stage is to follow a proven, straightforward, step-by-step plan, and this includes the following. First, make an outline of the book, break the project into smaller segments and organize your writing, set a firm writing schedule and track your progress, establish a deadline, eliminate distractions to stay focused. It's always very easy to get distracted, so stay focused on the project. The book project is mostly a very long project. Conduct thorough research on the subject. Use book writing softwares. Write with a reader's perspective and ensure that the language is clear and precise. Do not edit while writing the first draft. And finally, do not hesitate to get a senior scholar's comment to improve your manuscript. That's also a very important point, basically to improve the manuscript. Then the next step is the book proposal itself. Do not write the proposal until you finish your book's first draft, or at least finalize the outline. Generally, editors prefer proposals with a clear idea about the book, so don't rush it too much. It should be already very clear what you want to write before you send in the proposal. Analyze your target university presses or publishers to prepare the strongest possible case for why your project is a good fit for them. Tailor your proposal for each press or publisher individually. So again, different publishers might have different preferences. Your book proposal must reflect the entire manuscript accurately. A proposal can be submitted to multiple presses simultaneously. However, a full manuscript can only be submitted to one press at a time. So this is something to be careful about. Then the book contract, if you get one finally, it may take 3 months to a year to get a reader, so-called reader report from a press. So basically, if they are interested or not. If the reviewers recommend revisions, you will have to draft a formal response to address the reader's concerns. The editor will then present your book proposal to the editorial board, and finally the editorial board then votes on the book, and if it's a positive outcome, you will receive a contract. In case of a negative decision from one press, you can certainly go then to another press and try it there. Once then delivering the final manuscript finally, so having the contract is nice, but very often it's still a long way to finally finish the manuscript. So once an author has a book contract, they will have to do the suggested revisions before submitting the final manuscript. Carefully examine the errors in grammar, formatting, spelling, and syntax. Use spelling and grammar checking software. Have your final manuscript edited and proofread by native English speakers or services like Enago, for example. Submit high-resolution copies and copyright permission of any images that will appear in the book. Then the next step is copy editing and indexing. So an author must answer copy editors' queries. So they come from the publisher. There come back often some questions or some suggestions for changes. Then you have to read the proofs and suggest changes. You will also need to ensure that all changes are correctly implemented. And most publishers require a single combined index of subjects and names, and you have different options for that. Some project editors may request specialized index of other topics, and an author can do the index himself or also outsource it. There's also some software basically helping for indexing the books. In case you want to outsource it, it's certainly easier, but on the other hand, it mostly costs some money to do that. So the next question is actually how to publish an edited volume. And nowadays, still book chapters and edited collections have long been central to the humanities and social science disciplines, particularly, but also in other academic areas. The best edited volumes have coherent and well-integrated voice organization styles throughout the volume, rather than just being a collection of related chapters or sections. So edited volumes is not just a collection of different articles, but there should be a connection between the chapters. So writing an edited collection allows the authors to establish a relationship with fellow researchers globally and also widen their network. So let's see now how this process of publishing an edited volume works. So first, we have a researcher sends a book proposal to a publisher, or a publisher invites a researcher to be an editor. Then the researcher accepts the invitation and looks for co-editors or co-authors. Then the co-authors and co-editors are approved by the publisher and sign an agreement. All authors contribute their chapters to the editor for review. Editors review the chapters and send revisions to the authors, and then editors compile the final chapters into an edited volume. And finally, the publisher does the final copy editing and typesetting before publishing the book. Then the next slide is about the invitation to be an editor or a writer of a chapter. And basically, once you have reached a reputable position in your academic career, you might be approached by different publishers to be an editor or a co-editor of edited volume. As an early stage researcher, you might also be approached by an editor to contribute a chapter to an edited volume. So it's a great opportunity basically to gain an understanding of the publishing process, broadening your grasp of the literature and spreading your knowledge on the subjects to others. But before you answer the invitation, either yes or no, ask yourself a few specific questions and try to answer them honestly. The first question we see here is, do you really have the time to take on another obligation? Everybody's busy with many things, so do you really have time? The second question is, would you be able to complete the required work by the stipulated deadline? And the third question is, will the publisher editor give you some flexibility in writing? And only accept the invitation if you are able to answer yes to all of these questions. And also, before you accept an invitation and before you agree to be an editor or write a chapter for a book, make sure you ask the publisher or the inviting editor at least the following questions. What kind of readerships does the publisher or the editor want to reach? What is the complete outline of the book? What is the word limit for your chapter? Is there any limitation to the number of figures and tables in a chapter? How many references are allowed? Are there any guidelines for images? Is the use of color figures permitted? Has a sample chapter been prepared which would help to actually clarify further questions for you? So these are just some of the questions you might actually ask then to the publisher or the editor of the book. So the next step is some tips for a writer in an edited volume. And there are several things you can easily do as soon as you agree to prepare the contribution. Obtain the author's instructions for the preparation of manuscript from the editor or publisher to avoid inconsistencies of format within the book as a whole. Develop your own manuscript outline and check it with the editors to make sure you really understand your assignment. Start a bibliographic search and collect relevant reprints. Look into other books on the subject to see whether a similar contribution has been published before. Speak with other experts for fresh ideas or to learn about recent work you're not aware of. Think about how your contribution could be better than the ones already published. And at an early stage, already start developing like sketches of the figures, for example. And if you want to use any figures, images, or data that have already been published, seek permission for their reproduction from the author or publisher. Then responsibilities of an editor. The editor of a multi-author volume is the key figure in the planning, assembling, and production of the work, and the first point of the contact for all members of the publishing team. Find suitable co-editors and co-authors for the project. Send a contributor agreement to all contributors as soon as possible after contract signing. Ensure that the chapters or sections cover the topic and are accurate and well written. Send each chapter to one or more viewers. In some disciplines, reviewers are external to the project, but in others, contributors are used in the review process. Proofread and edit all content for writing style and adherence to the guidelines so as to build a well-integrated and consistent work. Act as a channel for all queries and corrections. Check the copy edited file and send each contributor the typeset PDF proof of his or her contribution. Then tips for an editor of a multi-author volume. There are several tips here also. So first of all, be sure that you have determined the topics you want to cover, your target readership, and the overall format of the work. Then communicate this clearly to the contributors. Also encourage your contributors to submit their chapters in the correct format to be able to spend less time and effort in finalizing the manuscript for the publisher. Then the next step is determine the specific responsibilities of each co-author and co-editor at an early stage. And then the next step is C we have here, set firm deadlines for each stage of the project and agree on them with your publisher. This should be ahead of the deadlines communicated to the contributors, as it is wise to include some extra time as contingency for inevitable delays such as late delivery, additional editing, and other unforeseen difficulties. Send contributors deadline reminders and promptly chase any overdue elements. That's very important. Unfortunately, many contributors are busy, so they might be always a bit late actually to submit their chapters. And finally, D we have here, with a lot of material in circulation, it's very important to maintain good organization and document management. Keep all versions of submitted material, but use a clear system for naming files to avoid confusion. File sharing software websites may be useful for doing that. So then, how to actually structure a book manuscript? So we have first here the front matter, including title page, copyright page, dedication, forward, preface, acknowledgement, about the book, table of contents, about the authors, and so on. Then we have the body matter, chapters containing the content of the book, the text, figures, tables, and references. And finally, we have the back matter, appendices, a glossary, bibliography, indices, and so on. And then let's see the front matter. So that's basically the title page, must include author, editor names, their affiliations, the book title, and the subtitle. Copyrights page, including consists of year of publication, declaration of copyrights, and so on. Dedication is optional, so you might show a sense of appreciation for those who assisted or achieving your academic goal. Then a foreword, contributed often by an expert in the subject field, but again that's optional. Then there might be a preface also, should be written by an author as an insight into the book and his book writing process. And finally, there might be also acknowledgements to acknowledge people who contribute their time, resource, and talent in the book writing process. Then about the book is another section. I don't go into detail now about all these sections here. Then table of contents, certainly. I think everybody's familiar with table of content. The outline and list all chapters and its part and back matter material in the final sequence. Then about the author is again optional. Includes a brief biography of the author, including institutional affiliations, other written works and accomplishments. Then about the editor, list of contributors is kind of the same as the author, but in the case of an edited volume, it's more authors basically or contributors. Then list of abbreviations, there might be also some list of abbreviations, and list of figures table, again, in case there are figures or tables in the book. Then in the body matter, very important, abstract. Abstracts are generally free available, so they're also somehow promoting your book, so you be very careful what you write in the abstract. They summarize the content of each chapter briefly and are freely available. Then the headings must be numbered and consistently formatted throughout text body. Again, in some books there might be numbers, in others they might not necessarily be numbered. Then terminology, units, abbreviations, technical terms, abbreviations should be defined second. The first time they appear in the text. Then format, style formatting. The authors need to conform to publishers' standard layout and formatting style. Generally, the publishers provide this to the authors, what kind of a style they prefer. Then special text, like standard internationally accepted format, should be used for writing names and organisms or chemical compound. Boxes, text elements like examples, summaries, exercises, or key messages can be written in a box to distinguish them from the main text. Then spelling, punctuation, certainly keep one style, either American or British spelling and punctuation consistent throughout the text. Tables must be captioned, numbered consecutively. Again, the publisher will probably have some kind of formatting recommendations. Figures, same goes here. The publisher has probably some recommendations for that also. Then we have here basic components of a reference. There are certainly different reference styles, and again, in different academic fields, there might be different preferences. But generally, there is the author's publication year, title of the work, publisher name for books, also volume, issue, page numbers, URL for access. These are some of the basically 7 different categories that are often in references. Then in-text citation needs to be inserted in the manuscript wherever work has been influenced by someone else's work. They're direct quoted from somebody else's work. That's one case that you need some references. Then paraphrase someone else's work, and also based your results on already published work. So if you already published something, you certainly also have to reference yourself. I think most of you are probably familiar with reference styles and citation styles. In humanities, there are some popular styles, for example, Chicago style. Social science generally use APA style, American Psychological Association, or Harvard style. In sciences, there are also some other styles like American Chemical Society. But again, each publisher will basically tell you which style they are preferring. These are different references in texts. I think most of you are familiar with this. And again, basically you have to follow the styles, what the publisher wants you, in case they have any preferred style. And like one author, 2 authors in basically first you can see in the text and the different ways. One is with names, this is the first way here. The second one is by numbers, you can see. And the third way basically you can see here is pages, figures, etc. referred specifically should be mentioned in the text with the citations. So there are different ways, but again, the publisher will probably have some kind of recommendations on that. What I can highly recommend is for everybody, in case you're not already using it, use reference management tools. There are just some of the names here, some of the most popular ones. It helps you easily manage your reference, insert citation and reference in the text automatically, as well as ensure adherence to different reference styles too. And you can also easily change between different styles, so this is very convenient. And this is one of my main recommendations always to graduate students also to use these reference management tools. In the beginning, it might take some time to enter all the books or articles, but in the end it will save you a lot of time when you actually write the article. Then the back matter, the appendix and glossary and index. Appendix is a collection of supplementary or additional information at the end of the book. Exists for some books, for others not. Glossary is a list, a term of definitions used throughout the book that might be unfamiliar to the reader. And in index, authors can use the indexing function in Word to identify index terms if an index is required by the editor. Then the final check and submission. Ensure that the files are complete and that the agreed upper length is accurate. Check the table of contents for the correct sequence of heading, numbers, and chapters, and update if necessary. Save each chapter separately, including the accompanying materials, in the original source file format. Save the original figure file separately and name them with the chapter and figure numbers. Signed content forms from all the contributors need to be enclosed in a separate folder. Ensure all third-party permissions have been obtained. Submit a PDF file of your manuscript and ensure the text and figures appear in the correct format. All content is final upon submission. But again, these instructions, you will probably also receive very similar instructions from the publishers anyway. Then finally, marketing your book, how you actually market your book. First, before submission, use popular keywords, start generating interest in the target audience, publish your research work related to the topic of your upcoming book chapters in popular journals to establish your credibility, and present at conferences. Then after submission, draft a press release for your university's public relations office. Be sure your bio contains your book's title and press name at conferences. Check if your department will announce the book's publication on its website or its newsletter. Set up a website for your book using a web host. This is also a way to basically promote your book. Then before publication, finally, complete your press author and book publicity forms, plan and schedule a social media announcement. And finally, after publication, update your email signature with a link to your book. That might be helpful. Everybody can see it. Everybody you write an email. Draft and send your announcement to listservs. So promote it basically through mailing lists also, for example. Submit or have your press submit your book for prizes. And plan your promotional events and campaigns. So you might, for example, promote it at some conferences. So I hope I gave at least some insights here about book publishing in this webinar. So overall, I would say writing a book is time consuming and many researchers struggle to fit this into their already packed schedules, but it is certainly a great way to share to your ideas and contributions to the broader world while holding the fruit of your labor in your hands. So I can only wish you very good luck with your writing. And now I give the microphone to Dr. Richard Murray from IntechOpen, and he will have some very interesting presentation about what his company is doing and how he's basically open access books he will speak about.
Thank you, Michael, and thank you for that very, very comprehensive and informative presentation on books. So my name is Richard Murray. I'm going to talk to you about books, chapters, and monographs, and how we at IntechOpen are dealing with those in the open access world. So I hope everyone can see my screen. So as we all know, open access is quickly becoming the future of certainly scientific publishing. It's perhaps a little bit lagging behind in the humanities and social sciences. But us at IntechOpen, we are one of the leading open access book publishers in the world. To date, we have over 4,300 open access books, with more than 2,000 titles currently uploaded and listed on the directory of open access books. Every day, funder mandates are nudging all STM publishers and gradually more and more HSS publishers towards open access. Towards open access publishing of books. What does this mean? This means that the dominance of the larger publishers, such as Springer, Elsevier, Wiley, is going to shrink. The funders have already extended their support for open access books in many cases. The Wellcome Trust coming on board, as well as the ERC mandating that all research outputs should be published in open access. There are also several cooperative ventures such as Knowledge Unlatched and Muse that act as essentially crowdfunding sources for academic libraries to help fund open access books. So just to emphasize that the future of open access publishing, or the future of scientific publishing, is open access. We have already seen that the University of California system has broken ties with Elsevier in favor of open access. We have Project Deal in Germany with Wiley and Project Deal. Springer Nature has also worked with Project Deal. We have Plan S, which is coming or due to come into effect very, very soon. And there are more and more deals being signed every day with different consortia. So different open access publishing models. Why to Why should we publish open access? You create more exposure for your work. Practitioners can apply your findings. You get a higher citation rate. Typically, there are 50% higher citations for open access book content in comparison to non-open access book content. Your research can drastically influence policy. You, as the author, retain the copyright. All material or content published is published under a CC BY license. The public can freely access your findings, again, increasing the exposure and the visibility of your work. You're becoming compliant with the grant rules and the funder mandates. The taxpayer gets value back for the money that they're investing into the research world. And researchers in developing countries, more so than in Europe and the US, they gain access to that research and can build upon that. So we're removing the paywall barrier that so afflicts many less wealthy countries. So the benefits of open access publishing, as I already said, 50% more citations come for non-open access, for open access books when compared to non-open access books. There's 10 times more online mentions of open access books, open access content, compared to non-open access content, and the downloads for the content are 7 times higher when compared to non-open access content. All incredibly impressive, I feel. Just to give you an idea of the sort of download numbers, our most downloaded book has more than 330,000 downloads, an incredible number. Certainly, I don't know of many journal articles that have that number of citations. I don't even know if they exist. We have a huge range of authors. We have more than 116,000. We're working in 163 countries in the world. We have published work from more than 3,300 institutional research centers and institutions. And we've worked with recently the 2018 Nobel laureate in physics, Gerard Albert Moreau. Excuse me. We apply quality, impact, and reach as our standards. So we believe that working with partners across the world extends the reach of the reach, dissemination, and the exposure that we want to ensure for our authors, which is why we work with Open, EBSCO, OpenAir, Google Scholar. We have all the required and standard industry affiliations, OASPA, STEM, ALPS, COPE, Crossref, Clocks, Counter, everything. So from the publisher's side, the publishing process is, I'm going to say it in much more brief terms compared to Michael. As he said, an author will typically be invited to submit a chapter or monograph proposal by an editor, or they can come to us with one. Once that is reviewed and approved, then they can submit their chapter or monograph for review. Once the chapter or monograph has been reviewed, and if it's accepted, the chapter is then copy edited, proofread, and produced. Finally, the open access publication fee is paid by either the author or the funding agency, depending upon the funding source for your open access content. Then once that is paid, the open access chapter is assigned a CC BY license. Finally, once the license is assigned, the chapter is published on our website and also listed on the different indexing services. Now, one of the advantages of the process that we apply is that we apply an open access journal workflow. Now, what this means is that your chapter, if it's in part of an edited volume, once it has been accepted and published, it is then searchable and citable immediately. There's no need to wait until the entire book has been compiled and published. What this means for an author, it means that their work is out there straight away, collecting citations, mentions, and downloads immediately. You don't have to wait the 2, potentially 3 years it takes to produce, compile, and publish a traditional book. The post-publication metrics that we can provide are downloads, which emphasizes the reach. We can also tell you what countries your chapter or book has been downloaded in, the number of citations, the online mentions via metrics and dimensions. We can also have customized reports for authors, which can be set at every 500, 1,000, 10,000 downloads, depending upon the choice that the author wishes to make. And one of our good authors in Peking University, in Beijing University, has also told us that without open access, there will be no development, and that IntechOpen, as an open access publisher of books, is fantastic news for scientists. And with that, that's my short section over. I'd just like to thank you all for listening. And if anyone has any questions or would like to contact me directly, my contact details are here. Please feel free to contact me. And that is me. I'll hand back over to Sakshi.